Hello internet, and today's video is going to be another book opinion, those videos in which I tell you my opinion on a book. So today's book is going to be Daughter of Smoke and Bones by Laini Taylor, and this is the first book in a trilogy. I don't know what the trilogy is called, but the Smoke and Bones trilogy, book number 1 by Laini Taylor. So I listened to this on audiobook, and I honestly think this was one of the books for me that if I didn't have the audiobook, I may have never continued. Because I have this thing where I get really frustrated with characters in books and plot situations. I'm just like an easily frustrated person. So I always almost want to DNF things. Like, I'm always like, ugh, but I could DNF it and be happier. But I'm always too curious of a person. So audiobooks help me force my way through like scenes and situations that I know I need to read to fully understand the story, but also like so I'm not skipping everything so I could get to the parts that I like, right? So I read this one on audiobook. The audiobook was amazing. The voice actor did really well, and she brought to life a lot of Laini Taylor's writing. Laini Taylor is a beautiful writer, and that's another reason why I ended up liking this book, because I don't think if she was as good as using her words as she was, I would have been as forgiving as I was with a lot of the plot things where I was just like, girl, stop it! So, this book follows a girl named Carew, and she has grown up at the hands of these things called the Chimera. So the Chimera are this people group, and they are chimeras. So chimeras are like different body parts of animals and humans and stuff, all attached together. So there are different groups of chimeras, like they can have goat legs and like people bodies, or like bat wings but like goat hands, and then like a human face and like wolf feet, and like, you know, just a bunch of craziness. And she grew up being raised by Brimstone, and he was known as like a sorcerer, and he would like create little things like these teeth, and they held magic, and he would like send them off to the Chimera world. And Carew is going to art school, and she ends up finding out that there's more to this Chimera world. Like, there is some really dangerous stuff. She finds out there's a war between the Chimera and this species called the Cephalin. They're like this angel type creature, right? And she finds this out when she's doing her job, where she collects a lot of teeth for Brimstone so that he can use them to make wishes and all this sort of stuff. So she's out there on a job, and she ends up coming across some angels, and she finds out like they're going after Brimstone's doors. Like, she doesn't know what's going on. She's really confused. Brimstone hasn't informed her. She's been kept pretty ignorant about this whole war going on, and like just some crazy stuff is going down. The first book is actually my favorite book, because I like that exploration where Carew didn't know what was going on, but she wanted to find out, and she was just like scared, and she was trying to figure it out, and there was just all these things like being thrown at her, and she was like, ah! And I like discovering slowly like this war between the Chimera and the angel people, and just like seeing this slowly unravel. And I didn't really have any problems with this book. I like the backstories told. I like the memories told. I like her slowly learning how she fits in to everything. I like seeing the angels. I like seeing like their emotions. I just like seeing, this is one case where I was like, okay, Inks is actually pretty good. I'm here for it. Give me more. Wallow in those emotions some. I'm ready, okay? So that's where I was like, yeah, good. I'm here for that. There was only one point where I really didn't like this book, and that was this point where Carew meets this dude to get some teeth, and she finds out that he has like this little shadow ugly monster attached to him, and then the shadow monster tells her, and then this guy named Akiva, and Akiva is one of the angel people, come to attack Brimstone's doors, and tells Akiva, you want to know the true history of the Cephalin? You want to know the true history of the angels? I existed. I know why this war started 1,000 years ago. I can tell you. And they're like, nah, man, we don't want to know. And I'm like, you're gonna need that information later. And yeah, they ended up needing that information later. They probably would have been better if they just listened to the nasty little thing, but they were just like, oh, he's so gross and nasty, like he's so disgusting to look at. And I'm like, don't look blindfold and listen to what the story he's gonna tell you because he's offering up this information for free. Later, he's not gonna do that. And that was the one point where I was just like, you dumb. But otherwise, I think this was the best book in the series because the angst was just the right amount where I wasn't like irritated and being like, stop being a whiny baby, just go and do the thing. It was just the right amount where I was feeling it. I liked the draw. I liked the like trying to figure out, ooh, what's happening? Like, what's the real backstory? Like, how is all of this related? Like, what's really going on, Karu? You need to find it out so I can find it out. So those parts, those were really great. Those were really, really good. I liked the idea of wishes. Brimstone is like one of my favorite characters because he's just such a wise chimera. He's just a wise being, and he just shows Karu so many wise things, and just like throughout the whole thing he's peppering her with all these like wise ideas, and she really needs to listen to him more. That doesn't come into relevance until the later books, but he mainly gives all the best information in the first book, and like she just needs to listen to him more. And if she actually took his advice and listened to his wise words and understood what they were talking about, life would be better for her. But she doesn't. So life progressively gets worse in the next few books. But one of my favorite things that Brimstone says is when he talks about magic, because he makes these little chain necklaces of teeth and he can turn teeth into magic and like all these weird things, because pain is magic, like transformational magic, right? And Karu mentions like she wants more wishes, and he's like, true magic isn't this, like this stuff that I'm doing, this painful, horrible stuff that I'm doing, that's not magic. Hope is magic. When you believe in something, when you hope for a better future, that's real magic, because that's the stuff that motivates you to change the world. That's when you see a new world, when a new world is actually created, is when you hope in it, when you hope in an idea and that becomes it. And pain isn't really magic. Like in this world, pain gets you some really awesome things. Like if you trade pain, if you pull out teeth, if like all this stuff, it gets you some really awesome wishes. But Brimstone constantly reminds her that hope is the most important thing, that's true magic. And that idea of hope being the most important thing, and then the parallel or the opposite of it being like to get like those magical little flashes of like transformational magic, pain equates magic. Those are two really prevalent things throughout this whole series that you kind of get introduced in this first book, that you have to remember, that hope is really important and you need to stay hopeful if you want to see a better world. But also pain is a price of a lot of things. Like you have to go through a lot of pain to get like those things that you want, to get those like little magical changes that you want, if you want these things to happen. Like pain equals magic, but real magic, true magic, the life-changing magic is hope. So Daughter of Smoke and Bones was a good audiobook. I definitely am glad that I chose to read it that way. This comes across for me as one of those series where it's like a Shakespearean tragedy, where you know not everything is going to end up right. So I definitely like the first book as the strongest one in the trilogy, because it really ended on a somber note, but a hopeful note, where Karu was hopeful for a better future. And it kind of like, this whole book tells you where the rest of the story is going to go, where it ends where it's like, she hopes for more. Like there's nothing but tragedy in the future, you know it, because there's this whole gigantic war set up, and you know you're gonna end up seeing it, and you know things probably can't end up well if this war is as treacherous as people keep telling you, but you hope for more. And that's kind of the emotions and feelings you're going to have the whole time. So like definitely Shakespearean tragedy. When you're going into this, you're not supposed to come out being like, oh, we're gonna get that happily ever after. No, that's not the kind of story we're getting. You're gonna see a lot of bad things happen, and you're gonna have to hope that good things are gonna happen, or at least it's all gonna turn around in the end. So Daughter of Smoke and Bone was definitely an enjoyable read. I would never say I'm gonna read it again. Maybe the first book, I did actually like. The first book's my favorite, but as like a trilogy, because I definitely think this is one of those series where you can't just stop at one book because you don't get the full story that way. Like, you never do, but this is definitely one of those times where you kind of have to read the whole thing to truly appreciate what it's doing. So I'm not sure if this is a story that I would ever reread in its entirety or at all, but it's definitely a story where I was introduced to the fantastic writing of Laini Taylor, where I honestly think that just her way of using words and her way of shaping a story really shed some beautiful light, where because I was so entranced by her writing and I liked it so much, I could ignore a lot of big things that I didn't like, and that was especially important in the later books. So comment down below if you like angst. I just want to know. I'm not usually a huge fan of angsty things, so this was a pretty tough series for me, because it's so much full of angst, just so much. First book, like, I was okay with it. Later books, you'll find out where I had problems. But, like, do you like angst? Like, do you like, and what level of angst are you okay with in your books? If you like what you're seeing here and you want to continue some more, click all those bunnies down below, and goodbye, internet.